If you're a junior engineer, this is one of the easiest kitchen ventilation mistakes to make. You look at the drawing, you see a cooker hood above the hob, and you assume the kitchen ventilation requirement is covered. But that is exactly where people get caught out. Because a cooker hood on a drawing does not automatically mean the kitchen complies with Part F. And in this video, I'm going to explain why recirculating cooker hoods don't comply on their own, what junior engineers tend to misunderstand, and what you should actually be checking when you review a kitchen ventilation layout. This video is based on approved document F Volume 1, 2026 edition, so always check the full guidance for project-specific compliance. Let's start with the main misunderstanding. A lot of people use the words cooker hood as if they automatically mean extract ventilation. But those are not the same thing. A cooker hood can either extract air and discharge it to outside, or recirculate air back into the room through filters. And that difference matters, because if the hood is only recirculating, then it may help with grease and some odors, but it is not providing compliant extract ventilation in the Part F sense. That is the key point junior engineers need to lock in. A recirculating hood is not the same thing as a compliant kitchen extract route, and that is why this catches people out so often. On a drawing, a recirculating hood looks tidy. It looks like something has been provided. It makes the layout feel complete. But from a ventilation point of view, the real question is not, is there a hood? The real question is air actually being extracted in the way the ventilation strategy requires? That is a much stronger design review mindset. Now let's talk about why this matters so much in kitchens. Kitchens are one of the biggest local pollutant sources in a dwelling. You have moisture, odors, grease, combustion byproducts in some cases, and general cooking pollutants. So Part F treats kitchens as key spaces in the extract strategy. That means you cannot just rely on background ventilation or assume that because the kitchen opens into another space, the problem somehow disappears. The extract route has to be thought about properly. And this is where the second junior engineer mistake happens. People remember one kitchen extract rate, but they do not check the actual system arrangement, because the kitchen requirement changes depending on how the ventilation is being delivered. So if you do not first understand whether the system is intermittent extract, continuous extract, or something else in the overall strategy, it becomes very easy to apply the wrong logic. And that is why recirculating hoods are so dangerous from a review point of view. They create false confidence. The drawing looks ventilated, the kitchen looks serviced, but the strategy may still be wrong. Now let's think practically. What should a junior engineer be checking when they see a cooker hood? First, is it actually extracting to outside, or is it only recirculating? That is the first question, because if it is only recirculating, then it should not be treated as the compliant extract solution on its own. Second, what is the actual extract method for the kitchen? Is it intermittent extract, continuous extract, centralized extract, another coordinated route? Third, how does the kitchen tie back into the wider dwelling ventilation strategy? That is where people often make the review mistake of looking at the kitchen in isolation. But the kitchen is not a standalone ventilation problem. It sits inside the wider Part F logic of local extract, whole dwelling or background air supply, purge where relevant, and internal air movement through the home. So if somebody points at a recirculating hood and says the kitchen is covered, that should immediately trigger more questions. Because what they may really be saying is, there is a product shown. Not, the ventilation strategy is compliant. That is a big difference. Now let's talk about the open plan issue, because this is another place where junior engineers get tripped up. If the kitchen opens into the living or dining space, it becomes even more important to think about the kitchen as part of a broader air movement problem. Because you are no longer dealing with just one enclosed room. Pollutants, moisture, and odors affect the adjacent occupied space too. So now the question becomes, what is the actual source control? What is the actual extract route? And how does the fresh air side of the strategy support the overall space? This is why kitchen ventilation is not just about ticking a box above the hob. It is about understanding whether the room, and sometimes the wider open plan area, is actually being ventilated in a way that makes sense. Another mistake junior engineers make is assuming that because a hood has filters, it must therefore count for compliance. But filters are not the same thing as an exhaust route to outside. A filtered recirculating hood can improve comfort somewhat, but it does not replace a proper extract strategy. And this is exactly the kind of thing that gets missed on real projects. Nobody deliberately says, let's make this non-compliant. It just happens because the visual presence of the hood makes people stop asking questions. So the real takeaway from this video is simple. A cooker hood on a drawing does not automatically mean the kitchen ventilation complies. A recirculating hood is not the same thing as compliant extract ventilation. And as a junior engineer, the strongest question you can ask is not, is there a hood? It is, how is the kitchen actually being ventilated? That one shift in mindset will make your design reviews much stronger. If this helped, subscribe to The Lazy Engineer, because I'm breaking down approved document F into the real questions junior engineers actually get stuck on.